Okay.
Think we're
Good
ready.
evening. This is the Committee of the Whole for October 15th. And I'm going to just take roll call, and then I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Bleckschmidt to lead us through all of the things we have to take a look at tonight. Director Smith?
Here.
Director Zavala Ortega?
Here.
Director Barrows?
Here.
And I am here, and Director Sproul is not here because of family requirements. So, Mr. Bleckschmidt, go right for it.
All right, thank you. So we have a relatively light agenda, so we can move pretty quickly, but by all means, ask questions where you need. We'll start, as we always do, with the Contracts Committee. We have our contracts recommendations. We have 5 items for your consideration tonight. The first one is a recommendation to renew a provider agreement between the district and Maxim Healthcare, who's also known as Amerigus, as they've evolved. You might remember that you all approved a very large general service contract with Maxim/Amerigus. I think it was in July. This is a little differentiated because this particular contract provides very specialized medical services for some of our students that need that one-on-one specialized skill set in the nursing area. So the amount is estimated to be $200,000 for the year as a maximum. And so our recommendation is that we continue to use Maxim for those very specialized services. Questions on the Maxim contract? All right, then I'll move us to our next item, hopefully. And next item is a recommendation to approve purchase agreement number 2024-044 with Tyler Technologies, who provides bus routing system as a minimum base product, but also has some really cool features around an app that parents would be allowed to follow their students' bus route to know whether they either got to the bus stop too late or they're still in time to catch the bus on the morning runs in, and then in the evenings, if there is a delay because of construction or another unforeseen circumstance, they would be able to see that. We think that will be a very popular feature for improving communication and kind of that comfort of the student, when to expect the students and when to make sure that the students are on the bus. But also it will provide, I think, a pretty significant workload relief for our school offices and our transportation shop, which are now currently fielding those calls and then manually checking on bus status. So some exciting new features to look forward to as we contemplate the Tyler Technology relationship. That would be next year. The current provider that we have, we're under contract with for the balance of the current school year. So that'll give us lots of time to plan and prepare and optimize the suite of services that they have. And again, just one other relevant fact is we'd explored Tyler Technology in the past, and there were some concerns around change management. Now we don't have a choice. The previous provider, the current provider, is no longer going to stay in that line of business of the bus routing and data around bus routes. And so with that displacement of that service, this was a golden opportunity for us to take our time and methodically move towards what we think is a much more robust program. This is anticipated to cost $460,963 per year, plus Washington State sales tax. So with all of that, any questions on Tyler Technology?
I have a question. I know several months ago, or maybe it was last spring, I know there was some things for some technology for the buses that I think some of the bus drivers were like trialing, and we kind of had some feedback on that. Is this the same thing? And is that what you were talking about, that
Exactly. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
now.
There was some divide within the transportation department around, some people were really excited around what they'd seen as a demo of the Tyler technology and saw the potential. Other people, I'll characterize it as change management, were a little more reticent to kind of take a leap away from something that they've always known and felt very comfortable with. Um, so again, we'll honor that and take in terms of a very long runway to implement this. But the fact is, we don't have the choice to remain with status quo beyond this year. So
So
we'll
this is
manage.
that same thing.
Yeah, it is.
Coming back.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for that question. Any others on Tyler Technology? All right, then I'll move us forward to a recommendation to approve a contract with HSI for backup services for our Google Workspace platform. And this was a license we've had for the last couple of years, ever since we migrated from that Novell platform for our network to the Google environment. And so that backup license recently expired. And so we have to renew it to preserve the integrity of that backup system, which obviously is extremely important. So the cost of this backup service for the Google Workspace is $55,422.32 plus tax. Questions on the Google Workspace backup? All right, then I'll move us on to a recommendation to amend some associated student body bylaws for Hudson's Bay and Fort Vancouver. And they are both seeking to add a club within their ASB for FCCLA, which stands for Family Career Community Leaders of America Club. Again, that would be both at Hudson's Bay and Fort Vancouver. And Fort Vancouver is also seeking to add a MMPI club, which stands for Micronesian. I want to make sure I don't totally butcher this. Melanesian and Polynesian Islander Club. And then FBLA, which is Future Business Leaders of America Club. So any questions on the addition of those ASB clubs at those two schools? All right, I'll move us to our last item in the contract section of the agenda, which is a recommendation to accept bid number 2024-008. It was some tenant improvements or some remodeling at Skyview High School, funded by our CTE department. What they did is they converted some very large open science areas into specific classrooms that would allow them to house some new family and community service, or family and consumer, science labs, as well as still provide the science programming that those old larger classrooms provided. So the total cost of this project was $250,481.70 plus Washington State sales tax. And again, this has been completed and to our satisfaction. And so this would be the final step of accepting that project as complete.
And Brett, this comes out of the CTE district funds, not out of the general funds.
Yep. Restricted funds that could,
funds.
Yep, sorry. Restricted funds that can only be used for CTE purposes. So yeah, we worked with Mark Reith on that to make sure that that fund would be adequate and that would be an appropriate use. Hearing no other questions on the contracts, we have a few policy items for your consideration. So I'll turn it over to Taylor, and if he can walk us through that section.
All right, thanks, Brett. So first, we do have a couple of procedures that superintendent has amended, and so those are on the agenda under item number 1, just posted for the public's notice. I will just call attention to the procedure 2151 for athletics and some changes to what's called the sanctioning grid. So consequences, athletic consequences, if students use tobacco, alcohol, other drugs, or engage in serious misconduct. So just wanted to call attention to that because I think that's probably of interest to the community. And those changes are consistent with the WIAA rules for sanctioning student athletics. So those are just the superintendent procedures, not items for board action, so included just for notice to the public. We then have 2 policies that will come to the next board meeting for a first reading. Policy 3110 called qualification of attendance and placement. The recommended revision to this policy is to discontinue the district's early entrance kindergarten program. And so the revisions reflect just removing the provisions of the policy that that create an early entrance program. The second policy that will be up for first read is policy 3432. This is our policy on emergencies, and the revision to this policy is a WASDA recommendation based on RCW 28A.320.125. And this revision just clarifies that we, for our school safety plans and emergency planning, need to include a plan for providing that safety information and emergency information to substitute teachers and other staff who are not regularly in our buildings, but to make sure that they have the information on what to do in case of an emergency. Are there any questions on those 2 policies that will be up for first read? Okay, and then we have 5 policies that were on the agenda at the last board meeting, so they'll be up for a second read at the next board meeting. 4 of them are our Title IX policies. So we have policy 3205, which is our prohibition on sexual harassment of students. This is a fully reworked policy based on new Title IX regulations. And the WASDA model policy that was just updated to reflect those regulations. So this reworked policy aligns both with Title IX and with state law requirements around prohibiting sexual harassment and responding to it. There's new definitions of sex discrimination and sex-based harassment under both federal and state law. And then this policy clarifies our requirements for an equitable, prompt, and remedial response to instances of sex discrimination or sex-based harassment. Then policy 3206 is a new policy. This comes also out of the new Title IX regulations, and it is a policy for supporting pregnant and parenting students. So this policy specifically prohibits discrimination against students who are pregnant, have pregnancy-related conditions, or are parenting. And it also provides accommodations for those students, and those accommodations will be sort of laid out in more detail in the procedure that will follow. And then it also includes a grievance procedure if accommodations aren't being adequately provided, or if there is discrimination or harassment on account of a student's status as being a pregnant or parenting student. So we have kind of then 2 sort of policies that mirror those for our staff. So 5011 is our policy prohibiting sexual harassment of staff members. So this policy, very similar to 3205, lays out the definitions and grievance procedures for staff if they're subject to sex-based harassment or discrimination. And then policy 5012 is our new policy for this is titled parental, family, and marital status and pregnancy or related conditions of staff. So this is a policy that again provides accommodations for staff who are pregnant or parenting, and prohibits discrimination based on staff members or applicants' status, parental status, family status, and marital status. And then our final policy that will be up for second read is a revision to policy 5400 personnel leaves. And this is a revision that clarifies that sort of sick leave does not fall under the personnel leaves policy. And the important piece about that is that sick leave can be taken in different units of different amounts of time than other personnel leaves, which have to be taken in half or full day units. So those are the policies that will be on the next agenda. Any questions at this point?
I like your new word, pregnating.
Oh yeah, I came up with that on the spot. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Taylor. I think the last item on our agenda is a recommendation to approve some instructional materials. I think there was 5 titles that have emerged through our internal review process for your consideration. So I'll open it up if there's any questions on any of the instructional materials.
Nope.
All right, well, thank you.
Okay, and I guess that comes back to me. Are there any comments, concerns that any of the board members have? Any directors? Okay, so with that, we will adjourn our committee of the whole, and we will be meeting in person for a board workshop shortly with no action to be taken at that one. So we're hereby adjourned. See you guys in a little bit.